When it comes to a legacy of tradition in Pueblo high schools, one school stands above the rest. 145 years ago, Centennial High School opened its doors in 1876. From 1876 to the early 1900s, the senior class was allowed to pick the school colors and the school mascot. One year, a class chose the Bulldog as the mascot and the colors red and white, and the rest is history. Throughout Centennial's history, the Bulldogs of red and white would occupy 3 school buildings, starting with the one-room adobe schoolhouse located in downtown Pueblo. Centennial's second building, which would be occupied for roughly 80 years, was located at the current position of the District 60 Administration Building on the corner of Court and 11th Street. In 1971, plans for a new Centennial High School would be announced, moving the building to the newly developing north side of town on Mount View Drive, just off of Highway 50. In September of that same year, in an event which is still held close to many people's hearts, the alumni, administration, and students would break ground on the building we are currently occupying today. The first senior class to graduate from this building would graduate in June of 1974. Today, in a continuation of that legacy, we're proud to be a part of the first groundbreaking ceremony in Pueblo School District 60 in just over half a century. Today not only signals the start of construction for this new, state-of-the-art, energy-efficient school that will serve as a template for future developments in the City of Pueblo, but this morning also marks a new era of education for District 60 and the students of Pueblo, Colorado. On top of transforming the way our students learn, over the next 2 to 3 years, this project will also energize the local economy, with roughly 80% of the subcontracting work being completed by locally based businesses. Also in keeping with tradition, H.W. Houston Construction, who built our current building in the early 1970s, will be completing construction of this new school, targeting an opening date of fall 2023. So join us this morning and witness just the beginning of the next chapter in Centennial High School's 145-year history.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Centennial High School. I see a sign out there that says, "Thank you, Pueblo," and that's what we're here to do. We're here to thank Pueblo on this great historic occasion for the groundbreaking of the new Centennial High School. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance as the colors are presented by the Centennial High School JROTC program.
Arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Right. Face. Forward. March.
Well, we're gathered here today for an absolutely historic event, and please be seated. This all started with a facility master plan several years ago and brought us here today with the passing of a bond that our citizens of Pueblo supported overwhelmingly. And now we're not here just to celebrate the groundbreaking for one new school, but we're turning a new corner. We're not talking about just changing light bulbs and putting a new layer of paint on our buildings. We're talking about 5 brand new state-of-the-art learning facilities that's going to benefit our students and benefit our community. When we think of the millions and millions of dollars that we're putting right back into this community, investing right back here and putting people to work, I want to thank you for joining us today. I also want to thank our district leadership team for their support in making this event possible, making all of this possible. I want to thank our dignitaries that are with us today. We have several city council members with us. Our mayor is with us this afternoon. And somewhat of a dignitary himself, Nick Donovan, I would say he's here. He's played some good music for us, so I want to thank him. I want to thank our print shop and the district communications team. You see a lot of our cameras out here today, and many of those are your very own students here at Centennial as part of the Bulldog TV. So I want to thank them for their support. We look forward to their products coming very soon. I want to thank the architects at MOA and HGF. HGF here locally and MOA for leading this process. It's been a great undertaking, and they've been there every step of the way to make this as smooth and seamless as possible. I want to thank you. I want to thank the members of the Design Advisory Group, the Citizens Bond Advisory Council, and the 4A Issues Committee, all of which have representation here today. So I want to thank you for your work leading up to and in the process of the construction of these new schools. I want to thank most of all the citizens of Pueblo for passing this bond and believing in the future of our school district and the future of our children. That's what this really boils down to. And when you look at our mission statement, that's what we're focused in on. And that's why we're here today. I most importantly, I want to thank our Board of Education, not just the current board, but the past board that believed in our school district and the citizens of Pueblo enough to put this ballot measure on the ballot in November 2019. And our current board members who are doing outstanding work to make sure that everything is happening, even during a global pandemic, everything is happening on time and on budget. So I want to thank you. But with us today, to get this program started, I'd like to bring up our leader, our fearless leader, our superintendent, Mrs. Charlotte Macaluso.
Thank you, Mr. Sprouse. Thank you all for joining us. A few short years ago, we as a district commissioned a master plan and facilities assessment to gauge the condition of our school buildings and to help direct a course for our future. The results, to say the least, were distressing. Hundreds of millions of dollars in urgent and direly needed repairs across our entire network of aging schools. The possibility of school closures and consolidations loomed heavily as our Board of Education and our leadership team began discussions on a course of action. The future of our district, as well as its tradition-rich past, was at stake. As hard-working and resilient Puebloans do, we rolled up our sleeves and put our collective noses to the grindstone, realizing that a solution was only to be had if we included the whole of our cherished stakeholder group. Educators and building leaders, students, alumni, civic leaders, we began a series of community forums that allowed all of us to see the severity of the crisis, and most importantly, to offer input and guidance as we worked toward a viable solution. The process was not without challenges. Understandably, no school community wanted to see its beloved neighborhood school building shuttered, and this was reflected throughout the forums and the town halls we hosted in the name of transparency and open communication. Through it all, one solution emerged as a necessity if the district's future was to be shored up in the face of such monumental structural needs: a bond. Determining the amount of that bond and what projects would be given priorities in the program resulted in yet more community engagement, including a series of stakeholder polls and frequent board discussion. There was no doubt that if a bond was to be successfully placed on the ballot and then voted and then approved by the voters, it was going to take yet another collective team effort. Respectful of the desires of the stakeholders and the community at large, and with the best interests of our district and students at stake, the Board of Education courageously proposed a bond program that would build, rather than close, 2 new high schools to replace the structurally unsound but tradition-rich East and Centennial High Schools. What brings us together today is a result of that bold vision. New construction, however, was but part of the bond program. the $218 million bond placed on the November 2019 ballot would see a host of much-needed improvements and renovations made at schools across the district, thereby giving new and extended life to some of our most treasured neighborhood schools. As was the case from the start of the master plan and facilities assessment process, a vision-driven unified effort, and a strong one at that, would be needed if a bond was to be passed. And once again, the Pueblo School District 60 community rallied together as one, putting aside any potential differences and making compromises when needed in favor of a brighter and a more stable future for our most valued asset, the children that we educate and the staff who does this most important work of educating our students. A vigorous campaign to see the bond passed involved the heroic efforts of many, from our esteemed alumni groups to high school seniors to civic leaders throughout our community, all eager to see the district and in turn, the community as a whole flourish in the coming decades. The tax-paying public gratefully felt the same way as our $218 million bond passed with flying colors, a testament to the power of a unified vision as well as the community's desire to see public education flourish for decades to come. With the bond's passage came the start of yet another wave of community engagement, this time to determine the look, the feature of two state-of-the-art buildings that would come to replace East High School and Centennial High School. An initial town hall meeting at the Rawlings Public Library was well attended and the atmosphere overwhelmingly positive as the district prepared its next steps. And then another wave. This one unwanted, unprecedented, enveloped the process and threatened to derail all the months of hard-won progress, namely a global pandemic that brought the world to a literal standstill. But once again, under the direction of our architectural team at MOA and HGF, the Pueblo community refused to let this latest obstacle derail an endeavor so many had worked so hard to bring to fruition. Under the direction of our architectural team, Chief Financial Officer David Horner and Executive Director of Facilities and Construction Management Bob Lawson, the process continued without an interruption. Town Hall centered on the design of the two new schools. They went remotely and virtually as Mr. Horner and Mr. Lawson ensured that the business side of the program carried on so that all projects, most notably the new construction that we usher in today, would remain on schedule. Additionally, the Citizens Bond Advisory Committee, formed to ensure that all bond-approved funds would be spent in the manner specified by the ballot language, continued to meet remotely and virtually, another integral part of this essential team effort. And I am proud to say that even in the face of a global pandemic and all the uncertainty that accompanied it, we are here today, on schedule, to break ground on a brand new high school. For the first time in half a century, District 60 will welcome not one, but two new state-of-the-art, energy-efficient buildings that will provide our students with a safe and welcoming environment and tremendously increase the educational opportunities for all. Today, the rich history of Centennial melds with the future no one could have envisioned all those years ago. The very building that was rightfully praised as the latest and the greatest achievement in public education will eventually be torn down to make room for the future. It fills me with great pride to point out that these two new high schools and the wealth of renovations being made throughout the district are but the start of what's being done, thanks to the faith of our tax-paying voters. In a rare occurrence, District 60 was successful in receiving not one, but two Building Excellent Schools Today, or BEST grants, highly competitive and sought-after awards that annually draw applicants from throughout the state. Through these BEST grants, and with the bond funds originally earmarked for renovations, we will be able to build new structures to replace Sunset Park Elementary and Franklin School of Innovation. And not only that, with favorable premiums gained through the sale of the bonds and through the prudent and construction management efforts of Mr. Horner and Mr. Lawson, we are fortunate to have enough extra funds to build a new K-8 expeditionary school on the grounds of the former Heroes K-8 Academy. Complementing these immense educational opportunities is a reality that our bond program will, in the end, pump hundreds of millions of dollars into the Pueblo community at a time when economic stimulus is sorely needed. and it's fitting that the project general contractor, H.W. Houston Construction, is Pueblo-based, and that 80% of the subcontracting work will be handled by Pueblo businesses and companies. Let's think about that for a minute. I know it's cold out here and I'm long-winded, but think about that for a minute. A total of 5 new schools and repairs and renovations that will keep our other schools operational for years to come, with the majority of the work being kept right here in our community of Pueblo. All from one bond, an unprecedented, history-making achievement. Who does something like that? I'll tell you who does something like that. School District 60 does that. And I am proud, and I am humble, and I am so very grateful to serve our community as Superintendent of School District 60. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Superintendent Macaluso. And next, I'd like to bring up our board president, Taylor Voss.
I think we can all agree that today is a monumental, historic day for our school district and for the community at large. It is, however, a moment many years and many long hours in the making. The end result of a collaborative effort that saw a District 60 Board of Education courageous enough to place ballot measure 4A on the ballot, an issues committee dedicated enough to vigorously campaign for its passage, and finally, a citizenry of Pueblo with enough belief in our mission and enough hope for our future to pass 4A. The one thing I've always respected the most about both the past and present board is that every single board member serves for the right reason. We all truly care about the kids in our district, and we share a passion for bettering their lives through education. From the standing board to those who were serving when the master planning process was just getting started, the effort and dedication committed to this endeavor has been nothing short of heroic. The past board went through a grueling process to get input and feedback from the community to formulate a master facilities plan, communicate that plan to the community, and then contribute to the campaign to ultimately pass the bond. I remember attending the stakeholder meetings, and at the beginning of the process, there were people who would stand up in those meetings and say that successfully passing a bond would be impossible. We understood that we had a mill levy override recently fail, and the community had only passed one bond in the past 40 years. But we as a board recognized the significance of the moment we were in and what a bond would mean for the community. It took a tremendous amount of courage to take on that demanding process, and it's a testament to that board that there is no hesitation in being willing to do so. None of this would have been possible without the vision and foresight of past board vice president Frank Latino and past board member Bobby Gonzalez. I was privileged to serve as a new board member to the Pueblo School District 60 under their leadership, and I am grateful to each of them for their tireless and sometimes thankless efforts to ensure that each student in D60 can lead a life of purpose and impact. Today, I extend my deepest gratitude to them. I would be remiss if I failed to acknowledge our current Board of Education members who have been equally as involved in generating the success our school district has seen in recent years. Vice President Dr. Margaret Wright, Judge Dennis Mays, Barb Clementi, and Tommy Farrell. It can be easy to assume that being a school board member is a simple task. But each of these great individuals has demonstrated leadership that I have been fortunate to learn from, and each of them are committed to the children of D60 with every decision they make. Pueblo School District 60 has been and will continue to be in good hands with board members like them involved. I also want to acknowledge Superintendent Charlotte Macaluso and her entire team. Without their leadership, commitment, and unwavering effort, none of this would have been possible. As we worked together to arrive at a bond program, one of our most pressing concerns was to ensure that we did the work up front to truly involve the community so that we would know what was most important to them. I felt that we were at a crossroads as a district. We could either take a huge step forward or a huge step backward. it was critical to present the community with a bond program they would strongly support. From the very beginning, I believed that it would come down to the quality of the campaign that we ran. I could not have been more proud to see different people from different backgrounds and different parts of the community rally together in that campaign to do everything possible to make sure it got passed. I truly believe it was one of the best run and organized campaigns this community has ever seen. I'd like to recognize the co-chairs of the Issues Committee, Erica Redslath and Betty Newfer, and extend my sincere appreciation to them and to everyone who volunteered on the campaign. The passage of the bond, which ultimately will lead to the building of 5 new schools, is a landmark achievement in the history of our community. When I decided to run for the board more than 3 years ago, my motivation was that I simply wanted to make a positive difference. I wanted to have an impact on this community that made me who I am today and ensure that we keep moving forward as a district. Passing the bond and being able to build 5 state-of-the-art schools is more than I ever hoped we would achieve. George Bernard Shaw once wrote, "There are those that look at things the way they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not." This is one of my proudest moments, to be a part of this group of people who dared to dream and ask why not. Today, this groundbreaking is the start of a new era in D60. What's good for District 60 is good for Pueblo, and I believe the momentum we've been able to create from this bond will have a ripple effect across the entire community. I'd like to think that years from now, we'll all look back and say it was this bond and the work that the past and present board did to change the tide and gave Pueblo the spark of energy to take a massive leap forward. I could not be more excited to see where we go from here. Thank you.
Thank you, President Voss. And now I'd like to bring up your principal, Centennial's principal, David Craddock, to the podium.
Good morning. Good chilly morning. Welcome to the site of our brand new Centennial High School. This is a big day for us as it marks the commitment by our Pueblo community to ensure a first-class education for generations of Puebloans and Bulldogs to come. Schools are institutions of learning for students, and we are proud to have some of our current Bulldog students with us today. Stand up. A lot of them are holding signs with the message we want to say on behalf of Centennial. Thank you, Pueblo. We have leaders from every grade level here represented today, and fittingly, several freshman students who will be part of the first graduating class of the brand new Centennial High School. Go Mighty Bulldogs, class of 2024. In the words of Maya Angelou, if you don't know where you've come from, you won't know where you're going. To that point, Centennial was the first high school built in Pueblo, Colorado. It started as a 16 by 20 foot structure built in 1873 and was originally referred to as the Pueblo High School. That original adobe structure eventually gave way to the construction of a majestic building that would grow and serve Pueblo's Northside community for over 50 years. To coincide with Colorado's admittance into the Union in 1876, the school affectionately became known as Centennial High School. In 1973, in order to accommodate the growth of Pueblo, a new state-of-the-art Centennial High School was built on Mount View Drive, which is our current location. By the time we open the new school's doors, this grand old building will have educated another 50 years of Pueblo families. That's where we come from. Talk about a tradition of excellence. And now to where we're going. As we break ground on the construction of the 4th Centennial High School, I'm reminded that the expectation of excellence and proud traditions that began in 1873 and has adorned the previous 3 buildings will now continue to live and grow in our brand new Centennial High School. While the spirit and tradition will follow us and continue to be the heart of the new building itself will offer us an opportunity to accelerate into the future of education by providing our students with state-of-the-art learning facilities to enhance learning for all students. State-of-the-art athletic facilities so our students can excel safely while building upon the championships earned over the past 140 years. State-of-the-art performing and visual art facilities to foster creativity, build cultural exposure, and promote the fine arts programs for our students. State-of-the-art career and technical education facilities to offer real-world experiences to our Health Academy, construction technology, and business career pathway students. On behalf of a very grateful Centennial High School community, I would first like to thank the Pueblo community for voting for and passing the 4A bond initiative last November. Your support and commitment are truly an example of what it means to be Pueblo proud. Let's give Pueblo a hand. We would also like to thank the diligence and hard work of the Yes on 4A committee for their tireless work in informing the public of the need for the passage of this important bond initiative. I would also like to thank the School District 60 School Board, Superintendent Macaluso, and the District 60 Administration, MOA and HCF Architecture, and HW Houston Construction for the professional collaboration that has made our new school a reality. I would also like to say thank you to all the dignitaries that joined us today in this cool but exciting morning. And I got to tell you, it feels really good to have our colleagues from the other 3 high schools here, not only in mascot, but also their leaders. We appreciate you. Thank you for being here today. I want to guarantee everybody one thing is that we talk a lot about excellence and tradition here. That will follow us into the new building. And just so you know, our staff is just as dedicated. We're going to take this torch of all the good work, and we've already began changing our teaching practices to the most current to benefit our students. So our state-of-the-art teaching matches the state-of-the-art education that the building is going to provide us. This is an exciting day for our students, for the legacy of Centennial, and for all of Pueblo. We thank you all for being here to celebrate with us, and we hope to see you again in 2 years when we enter the new building. As we have been saying all year, the future looks bright at Centennial High School. Thank you all for joining us today.
Principal Craddock, we are so excited to be here today, and I want to give you a very special gift. This here is a plaque that we think is going to look pretty darn good in your office and in your school. On this plaque, it's presented on the occasion of the new school groundbreaking, March 30th, 2021. It says the tradition continues. And in it is encapsulated some soil from the construction site that's yours to keep. Thank you so much, Dave Craddock. Thank you, Principal Craddock. Hold that up. Let us see it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to have a little fun, get a little dirty here. I'm going to invite some of our friends and esteemed guests from the district up to break ground. So can I start with Board Member Tommy Farrell, Board Member Dennis Mays, Board Member Barb Clementi, Board Member and Vice President Dr. Wright, Board Member Dennis Mays. I apologize, I might have got those out of order. Let me just look at you here. Ashley Sandoval, she's a sophomore and will actually be a student in the new high school once it's built. We have our superintendent, Charlotte Macaluso, Centennial's principal, Dave Craddock, current senior student body president, Holly Ward. Teacher here, marketing teacher, Joe Petrick. Alumni, Mike Sexton, also a member of the DAG. District Design Advisory Group. And from the 4A Issues Committee, Co-Chair Erica Retzlaff. All right, and we're going to let our partners in the media kind of get up here for this great shot. If I can have all our guests in front of a shovel, please put on your hard hat. Man, these are looking good, looking good. All right, we're going to take the shovel and we're going to stick it in the ground and pause for a few minutes or for a few seconds. I'll do a countdown here. All right, everybody have their shovel in hand. 3, 2, 1. All right, let's take a photo. And let's go ahead and toss that dirt. Turn it over. Congratulations. Well, I just want to thank you all so much. As the sign says behind us, the tradition continues. Today, the tradition continues, but the landscape changes. We are changing the landscape of Pueblo, Colorado, and it starts right now. The new chapter of our story begins today, and you were a part of it. Thank you so much for joining us.
So what does it mean to you to be at the groundbreaking ceremony today?
Well, this is just such an exciting time for you guys, the students, the community, the Northside community, Pueblo in general. You know, Pueblo really gave us a vote of confidence with the vote on 4A, and it's becoming reality. So the groundbreaking signifies a brand new Centennial. So we're going to take all the spirit, tradition as our foundation, our heart and soul, and bring it into a brand new building for generations to come.
How will this impact the community as a whole?
Well, I think it'll help the community a lot. I mean, when people are looking at Pueblo to come here, they're looking at what kind of educational system we have. They look at the school buildings and things like that. The city of Pueblo is going to get some sales tax from the construction of this, the building materials that are incorporated here. It'll just help us meet our governmental obligations.
As a community, this is a boost for our entire community of Pueblo. It ensures the viability of public education for generations to come.
One, obviously it's going to benefit our children. They're going to have, as I indicated, high quality resources, state-of-the-art equipment to work with and everything. We're talking about between this and East High School, a project that's going to bring in $220 million into the community.
What does it mean to be a Bulldog?
Oh, it means everything to be a Bulldog. My parents were Bulldogs. My grandmother was a Bulldog. My great-great-great-uncle was a Bulldog. It's everything to be a Bulldog.
So I have a long and storied relationship to Centennial High School. My mother went to Centennial High School. My brother played football here. I am a proud graduate of the class of 1974, and we were the first class out of this then brand new school. I counseled here. I was a school counselor for 15 years, and I am the president-elect of the Centennial Foundation.
My dad was a Bulldog, class of 1961, and he's in the Athletic Hall of Fame, so I feel a great connection to the school, and from the time I've spent here and from him being a student and athlete here, and it's exciting to have my daughters be graduates here in just a few weeks as well.
You know, several years ago we embarked on a facilities master plan, and we determined that many of our schools were aging and structurally unsound, and so this really gives us an opportunity to build new buildings, and so it keeps the integrity of our buildings intact and educational opportunities for our students for many, many years to come.
Why is Centennial tradition important to you?
Because it's just such a rich tradition. It goes back more than 100 years, and tradition is what we build upon.
Tradition is super important to me. Today we made a sign from 1971 when we broke ground on this building to give that connection. So I mean it's all over. No matter how small the detail, tradition's always super important.
Centennial and I go back way back. I'm actually a 1974 graduate of Centennial High School. So literally the school you guys are in right now, I was the first graduating class of that particular school. and yet another school is being built. So I still call that school the new Centennial because I went to the old one as well.
Centennial's been a cornerstone of this community since the very beginning, and I can't imagine Pueblo without a Centennial High School.
Well, Centennial tradition means everything to me. I mean, I'm true blue Centennial Bulldog. That's the reason I got onto the foundation and became the president. I just, it's true to my heart on the Bulldogs and all the history that comes with it. And future generations, I want to make sure that they don't forget where Centennial is and where it came from.